Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. And as always, our guest is the delightful Melodie de Jager, or Dr. Melodie de Jager. I've done a lot of work with Melodie over the years in terms of helping people to adjust to their loss of vision. And as you'll see this afternoon, she has a very interesting way of looking at things. And Melodie's scope of patients or clients that she deals with is from babies to the aged. So over to you, Mel.
Thank you very much, Belinda and Hazel, for the invitation. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would love to see you. I can't see you. Maybe you can see me, maybe you can't. So let's just chat this afternoon. No PowerPoint. So what we do is we use sound for communication. And I'm going to talk about groundedness, grounding. You know, that's a funny word because very often when you hear a person say they feel grounded, that means they feel confident, they feel secure, they feel in control. Maybe not of the environment, but definitely of themselves. So what's the opposite of that? The opposite of that is being ungrounded. And how does that feel? That feels insecure, not so confident, and definitely not in control of self, and therefore has great difficulty within the environment. So how on earth did I decide to talk on grounding this afternoon? Well, a couple of things. I've been watching a movie called Grounding, and I've watched a movie called Earthing. And that's after we've done some research with a group of neurologists in Russia, where we looked at the role of gravity. Because you see, the moment we talk about being grounded, grounded is earthed. It means it's something physical. But if you listen to the words I used earlier on, when a person feels grounded, they feel secure, they feel confident, and they feel in control of themselves. So groundedness is often associated with an emotional state, but it's actually a physical thing. And it has something to be said about our relationship with gravity. And what is very interesting, where Jean Ayres, the mother of, I believe, occupational therapy, said gravitational security is incredibly important. And your first relationship is your relationship with gravity, not your relationship with your mom. And that's a fantastic and a strange statement all at the same time. But it's absolutely true. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the baby, but when that baby is in utero, it is apparently the pull of gravity that enables that baby to orientate itself in utero. It's the pull of gravity that towards the end of pregnancy turn that baby to go into the head first position down to be born through Southgate. Northgate is a different situation, but through Southgate, and you figure out what that means. So, but it's only when the baby finds their feet. Now, what does that mean? It's the moment they put their feet on the ground. And 60% of babies are said to be walking at the age of 1. So the moment they find their feet, they're around about 1 year old. And for the first year, they are constantly fighting the pull of gravity. So gravity gives us a sense of safety and security. And why do we then fight it? Why don't we just stay down? Well, we're not going to survive much if we stay down. So muscle tone is an opposing force to gravity. So we naturally fight gravity to be able to operate, to be able to function within a gravity full environment. Now, what's fascinating, especially in working with the Russians and their very rich culture in terms of space research and exploration, is it's said that when people are up in space, and they're known for their intelligence, but very often they become dyslexic. So I was fascinated when I heard you can become dyslexic, but within a different environment, you stop being dyslexic. Now, the scholar in me, the scientist in me goes, yes, maybe, and that's a talk for another day, but maybe dyslexia is not a condition. It is just an indication of a faulty system. So let's park that idea, okay? Fascinating idea. Woo, we can talk about that a lot. We want to talk about feeling grounded and your relationship with gravity, and especially for the visually impaired. And why is that so incredibly important? Well, research shows, and it was a very interesting article, a couple of articles, because I read it in one article. I thought, no, I've never read this before, so let me go and double check that. Supposedly, your balance system relies on vision in the first 3 years. And then between your third birthday and more or less your 28th to 30th birthday, you rely on your vestibular system for balance. Okay, and we'll talk a bit more about the vestibular system just now. And then gradually, from the age of around about 30, late 20s to early 30s, your vestibular system starts, and the functioning of the vestibular system starts to diminish, and we start relying on our vision once again to maintain our posture and ourselves in an upright position. Well, this is huge. This is huge. That means we have two systems that enable us to operate in our environment. The one is vision, and the other one is the vestibular system. The thing with if you listen to what I just said in terms of the timing, so 0 to 3 years visual, 3 to 28 vestibular, for the rest of time visual again. It seems like the visual system is our primary system to maintain balance and to position ourselves, well, posture, balance, and position ourselves in the environment. But that's not good news for the visually impaired. Well, that's just one way of looking at it. It's actually not exactly how it should work. How it should work is that we use our vestibular system for balance, to be grounded, for balance, for posture, and our visual system for a lot of other stuff. But you may be able to relate to this, that when there's a faulty balance system, one tends to get motion sickness. One tends to battle with a fear of heights. One may even find it very difficult when you're on a ship, to one of these marvelous cruise ships, to really enjoy the experience, because the moment you can't see a fixed point, or you don't have a fixed point of reference, you lose your balance. You feel queasy. It's the same with fear of heights. It's the same when you get motion sickness. So what do you want to do? You want to lie down. So when you lie down, what happens? You are grounding. You are reattaching to gravity, where you feel safe, secure, and stationary. You're not moving. So, but that's especially if your vestibular system or your balance system is a little bit immature. So let's make this clear. So the two systems that enable us to operate in our environment, specifically in terms of posture, and then specifically in terms of moving in your environment. And that's vision, and the other one is the vestibular system. Now, what's fascinating about the visual system, it is as optimal as possible if it sits on top of a strong vestibular system. They talk about the vestibular ocular reflex. It's a long, long story, but it's just interesting. So can you hear people who battle with visual impairment, or those people who work with people with visual impairment? Vision isn't the ultimate form of orientating yourself in space. The vestibular system is. But the vestibular system is marvelous. Where do we find that thing? Well, partially the central vestibular system is in your neck, and the peripheral nervous system is in your peripheral vestibular system is in your ears. So your vestibular system is very closely related to the position of your head in space. So you know that movement always follows the head. Where the head goes, there goes the body. If I put my head to the side, it won't take me very long unless I start rectifying my position that I'll be falling over. So the position of the head is incredibly important for the brain to know where are you in space. But the brain can only know where you are in space if it has two bits of information. Information from your feet and information from your vestibular system. And the first bit of information that the brain wants. That cognitive part of your brain is the information from your feet. So I'm going to spend most of my time this afternoon talking about the feet and what can we do about our own feet to ground ourselves a little bit more, so we feel less anxious, so we feel less out of control of ourselves, and we feel more confident and more willing to move forward. What's a fascinating thing, I've been watching a presentation, by a 2-hour interview actually, um, with Dr. Andrew Huberman. Fascinating. I'll send you a link. It's probably one of the interviews that I've learned the most from in all of my life. I kept on stopping and making notes. Fascinating. And it said this one thing that I found absolutely amazing. He said frustration and anxiety. Do we like those? Frustration and anxiety? Definitely not. Do we know that as visually impaired people? Absolutely. And he says both frustration and anxiety are nature's work prompts to move us into action. It's like it gives us fuel. Frustration and anxiety creates its own kind of adrenaline fuel that we need to act on. And it's if we don't act on it, that it actually becomes a little bit overwhelming at some stage. So this is good news. That means whenever I feel frustration, whenever I feel or experience anxiety, because I don't have anxiety and I don't own it, but I do experience it at some stage. It's very important. It's just not just semantics. The moment you it's cast in stone. The moment you experience it, it's transitionally. It's going to go at some stage. But the amazing thing is, when you experience frustration and anxiety, it's nature's prompt to move. But how do you move if you're not aware of your feet? Isn't that amazing? So we are going to bond with our feet this afternoon. And I really want to encourage you to experience and not just listen, but to really do as I suggest as we go along. If you could see, you would see that I'm sitting here barefooted. And I would encourage you to remove your shoes right now, because we can't talk about groundedness without being grounded ourselves. So yes, groundedness definitely has an emotional component. It seriously, when you ground the body, you ground the emotions. When you ground the body, you stabilize the body, you stabilize the emotions, and you stabilize your thinking. And just a little to the side while you're busy removing your shoes. You are, aren't you? So please remove them. And if you're wearing socks or stockings or something that you can remove and it's socially appropriate to remove it where you're at the moment, please remove them. So wherever you are, so you can be barefooted for the rest of this session. So just okay, let's stay with that and not go to the side for the moment. So now that your feet are bare, just feel, put your feet down next to each other. Next to each other doesn't mean touching each other. That's very unnatural. Your natural position for your feet on the floor, whether you're sitting or standing, is if you put your feet together, so they're touching, heels touching, the front part of your feet touching, and then you turn your feet outwards. So you turn your toes outwards, and then you move your heels so they align with your toes. Okay, that would be put your feet together. So feet together doesn't mean touching. It actually means if you were hanging from above, from the roof, your legs would be hanging below your hips. So it's in line with your hips. But just raise your feet, put them back down on the floor, and just look at the position of your feet. Are your toes pointing in a 10 to 2 position? 10 to 2, think of a clock. What does that look like? Okay, so your feet would create a bit of a V. Or sometimes people do a 20 past 7 kind of a position where the heels are out and the toes are touching. Neither of those are very conducive to grounding. So keep your feet straight forward, toes pointing straight forward, apart. There's that distance apart. And then I want you to just feel your feet for the moment. Just when last have you felt your, not with your hands, just feel, become aware of your feet, where they are on the ground. Just feel what's the texture under your feet. Which parts of your feet are touching? Can you feel your whole foot? Both feet? Your feet burning? Are they cold? Is there a kind of a pins and needles feeling? Just feel what your feet feel like. And then move your toes, all of them, not in a specific pattern, but just move them and deliberately put them down on the surface. If it's a carpet, put it down on carpet. If it's tiles, put it down on tiles. And the front part of your foot, your feet, just raise your heels and feel what they feel like. Now they're connecting with the earth. Put your heels down so your whole, both your feet are flat down on the ground. And just feel what that feels like. And then, if you want to, just turn your hands. I don't know where your hands are at the moment. You can rest them on your thighs. But what you may want to do is just turn your palms upwards, because the moment you rotate your palms, they are facing upwards, it has a very distinct effect on your shoulders, and it actually opens one up. Do you know that? We tend to close ourselves, rotate hands down, you know, close to fetal position, when we feel insecure, when we feel anxious, when we feel depressed. We tend to close ourselves up. So we don't want to live like that, because it limits the quality of our lives. Feet down, forward, nice relaxed posture, hands turned upwards so the shoulders rotate a little bit. And then we just take a nice deep breath, just one deep breath. What is really helpful, if you think of the marvelous mother that we have in the earth, and we can for a moment imagine that gravity is a mom that can remember, it's our first relationship on this earth, that the force of gravity can actually move through your body. So imagine as you breathe in, imagine the pull of gravity coming up into your feet, through your ankles. Keep on breathing in and out. And pull in a little bit more gravity towards your knees, your thighs, and out. And with every breath, just connect a little bit more with gravity. And you'll feel something. I think what I'm feeling is a sense of calm. What I sense is that time has just gone a little bit slower. It's as though people talk about mindfulness. It's just as though one becomes more present in the now. And that's where we want to be, because tomorrow is still out there. Yesterday is past. We want to be here, and we want to be here now. So this is a very simple exercise that you can do on a daily basis. But the important thing about sitting like this is that it enables one to just for a moment experience groundedness. Because without that feeling of groundedness, it's incredibly difficult for the vestibular system in your ear, in your neck, but also in both ears, to pick up where's my feet in relationship to my head. And you see, this is really just like the GPS in a car. And what is the GPS is? It needs current location, because without current location, it's very difficult to navigate. So your groundedness is a way of stimulating current location. What's the next step in terms of the GPS? It has a map, and it figures out you've got a destination. There's something you want to do. Maybe you want to walk to the kitchen. Maybe you want to go to the toilet. Maybe you want to get up and hug somebody. Maybe you want to open the door and let somebody in. Maybe you want to wrap your, it doesn't matter what you want to do. Your brain needs to know where you are. And then it needs to know, where are you in your environment? Ladies and gentlemen, remember what I said initially. The brain needs info from our eyes and from our vestibular system to know where we are, current location, and position ourselves in the environment. The oldest system to enable us to do that is not visual. It is the vestibular system. It's the very first system that myelinates. What does myelination mean? Myelinate means? It means it's the first sensory system in the entire body that gets insulation tape. You know, myelin, it's like a fatty sheath that develops round nerves to create like a highway so the messages can run much faster. The very first sensory system in our body to myelinate is the vestibular system. The very last system of our sensory systems in our body that myelinates is vision. Can you hear that? So even if you're visually impaired, I can't talk about visual impairment because I don't know it personally. I've read enough and I've met enough people where I've noticed that, especially if visual loss is gradual, it's really tricky. So please don't think that I'm saying this lightly. But what makes me exciting? So I'm not saying it's easy to lose vision. I'm not saying that at all. Not at all. What I'm saying is what you've got is a vestibular system. What you've got, most probably, are feet. Well, if you don't have feet, that will make this conversation a little bit more complicated. But let's make the assumption you've got feet and you've got a vestibular system. Then we've got a conversation going, because then you can be grounded. Then you can feel in control of yourself. You can feel secure. You can feel confident. But we often don't feel confident. And we often feel anxious and insecure, especially if you are visually impaired, because you don't quite know where you are or where you are in your environment. And because your brain can't sense your feet, it escalates. The feelings of insecurity and anxiety simply escalate. So the marvelous things, you've got feet. We can work with that. You've got a vestibular system. If you've got a head that you can hold up on your body, you know, if you can hold it up, that means your vestibular system is working. You've got a working vestibular system and you've got sensation under your feet. You can move within your environment and in unfamiliar environment if you're very, very aware of your feet. So I'm going to make a plea this afternoon that you use shoes only when you have to. There is such a long culture in terms of the human evolution where we walked barefoot for years and years, and then they used skins. They didn't use plastic or rubber soles. So what do we often do to create a sense of safety and security? Because you may notice that your feet become very sensitive sometimes, or very insensitive. It doesn't. Feet respond in different ways. Skin respond in different ways for different people. But it was fascinating. Most of your skin is covered by hair, but there are 4 places where there are no hair. It's the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. Now, what's the purpose of the hair on your skin? Well, if you pull a hair anywhere on your body, depends on your age, eh? Anywhere on your body, you'll feel it. Do you know what's at the base of every hair? A nerve ending. Because as those hairs move, it helps the brain to figure out where the rest of your body is. But now, if hair and the nerve endings at the base of every hair enables the brain to know where the rest of the body is, why on earth don't we have hair on the palms of our hands and the soles of our feet? Because it's the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet that determines your independence. Wow. Think about it. If you can't walk, you become dependent. If you can't use your hands to wash, to dress, to go to the toilet, to eat, to interact, to gesture, if you can't use your hands, somebody needs to dress you. Somebody needs to wash you. Somebody needs to feed you. So isn't it amazing that the 4 parts of our body, the 2 hands and the 2 feet, that we need the most to maintain our independence are not covered by hair? So how does the brain know where our hands and our feet are? Well, research has shown that there's more nerve endings per square centimeter under your feet in the palms of your hands than anywhere else in your body. Isn't that amazing how nature compensates? No hair, but many more nerve endings. It works in a different way. So they're different receptors. The Russians talk about gravitational receptors under your feet. Haven't read that in a lot of literature, but it's rather new research that they've done, and they now send the cosmonauts, they call them cosmonauts, they now send them into space with funny boots. It's not funny ha-ha boots, strange boots, with rollers in it. Because as they're in space, these rollers would start rolling, as rollers do, for a certain amount of time during the day. Why? To enable those amazing cosmonauts to know where their feet are so they can feel more safe, secure, in control of themselves within their environment. It's the same as being grounded, but it's still in space. So are you with me? It is amazing that the moment we understand that when our vision is not as sharp as we would like it to be, and if our vision is failing in some way, it is an enormous loss. But it means there's an ancient system that's there to catch you. And it's the system that plugs into Mother Earth that enables you to be grounded on a physical level, on an emotional level, and on an intellectual level. So ideally, obviously, we are barefoot most of the day. So I started talking at one stage about your feet being very cold, or sometimes the feet become so sensitive that we don't want to be barefooted because it's too sore, it's too painful. But that's nature's way of saying you need to pay attention to your feet. Karen will talk to you about the whole diabetes impact in terms of awareness of feet. I'm not talking about diabetes today because what I'm talking about is prevalent with people with and without diabetes. So what I'm talking about today is when the brain starts losing awareness of the feet. The brain makes your feet more sensitive because it's desperate for input so it can orientate you in space and it can help you to feel safe, secure, and non-anxious, confident. But for that, the brain creates an incredible sensitivity under the feet. It sometimes feels like there's a pebble in your shoe when you walk. It's not comfortable. You're walking with bare feet, but it feels like there's a pebble under your feet. Or it sometimes feels, you know, how a sock can fold, or the seam of the sock moves in under your feet and it's irritating. But if you look, well, there's nothing, but it's the sensation. When that happens, it's the brain's way or nature's way of saying you need to pay attention to your feet. Because if you don't pay attention to your feet, I can't help you to operate with confidence within yourself or within your environment. And what can you do about it? We're going to talk about that for the rest of the afternoon. But the important thing is to sit down quietly. Don't stand. Sit down quietly because you need to feel safe and secure in a comfortable chair. Don't sit on the most rigid chair you've got. Go for comfort. And then be aware of your feet, but literally be aware of your feet and move them on the ground, because when you do that, your brain says, oh, they are still there. Have you ever heard of anorexia? Well, obviously I have anorexia. Well, that was the joke for the afternoon. I don't know what you see, but I sometimes think I have anorexia. You just have a problem with the way you see me. That's why you see me differently. You see, the thing with anorexia is a person who experiences or go through the experience of anorexia. It's not something they own, they have. It's something they experience. They feel enormous despite what the mirror tells them. Okay, listen carefully. They believe what they feel. They don't believe what they see. And that comes from, they call it soma senses, all over your body that tells the brain where's the body, how big is the body, how is it moving at the moment. So what happens in nature when a person suffers from anorexia and the brain is not updating, that they're actually getting so thin that it's dangerous? The brain creates incredible hair growth all over the body. Why would the brain do that? Now, if you were in my class or in my lounge right now, I would ask for a show of hands, and the first hand up would get a book, because I actually gave you the answer earlier on. Why would nature enable a person who's dreadfully thin because they're experiencing anorexia? Why would they develop additional hair on body hair? Well, one is because they're cold, and it enables them to maintain body heat a little bit more. But what did I say? What was at the base of every hair? It's a nerve ending. So what happens when they grow additional hair? It enables the brain to update its map of that person's body. So nature endows the person with anorexia with additional hair, because when those hairs move, the brain says, oh, you're not out there, you are in here. Because at the base of every hair is a nerve ending that sends information from a sensory sensors to the brain that says what's going on down here. So with your hands and your feet, we don't have the advantage of hair. So we need to be very, very aware, and we need to work with our hands, the palms of our hands and the soles of our feet, to maintain our level of independence. That's hugely important. You know what happens sometimes when we become afraid or anxious within our environment? We actually don't want to move. We actually don't want to touch because we don't know what we're going to touch. And then we sit with a catch-22, because I don't move and I don't touch. The sensitivity in my hands are not utilized. So what happens? The brain has to give you a different kind of a sensation to say, pay attention, because it's use it or lose it principle. So what can you do? Well, it depends on the agility of your body. And even if you are mature, because we don't age, we only mature. If you mature and your body is a little bit stiff, it may be very difficult for you to raise your foot and put it on your other knee to give yourself a foot massage. That is ideal. And it's something to work towards. And Belinda and Hazel, maybe we can have a challenge where we say, let's for the next 2 months, let's do a foot challenge. And I've actually got a research going at the moment. We do extremely simple research about sensitizing the soles of the feet. And if you want to participate, I would love the data, but I would love even more for you to become more aware of your feet. So one of the first things would be that you massage your feet. Okay, the easiest way to massage your feet is to ask your family to buy you or buy yourself a foot spa. Because while your feet are in a foot spa, they're rollers, and there's these marvelous bubbles. And obviously, if there's something nice smelling in the foot spa, that helps as well. And I'm not referring to your feet right now, because your nose has a straight pathway to the emotional part of the brain. So that's why perfume, the perfume industry, that's why aromatherapy oils are amazing, because it's a way of touching you on an emotional level without getting a hug. So it's a nose hug. So when your feet are in a foot spa and you roll them over the rollers, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to increase the level of awareness. Well, if you really want to, and if it's possible for you, you can have the foot spa with nice warm water, and then you can have a bucket or something next to it, even a big pot with colder water. So you use temperature, hot, cold, hot and cold, because it improves blood circulation to your feet. You will not feel your feet if you use vibration, if you use temperature, and then deep touch. So massage, when you dry your feet, obviously you use deep pressure. But ideally, and I'm going to show you on my hands what we can do with your feet. And I want to encourage you to work with me. So if you can, just for a moment, do this with both your hands. Just open and close them. Just want to check time. So just shoot your hands open so your hands look like stars, and then close them tightly, and then open them again and move your fingers and feel what your hands feel like. Do they feel tight? Do they feel soft? Do they feel loose? Do they feel cold? Just feel your hands while your hands are up in the air. And then you can choose any of your hands, left or right. It really doesn't matter. But so you're going to massage the one hand using your other hand, and it's the same procedure that you can use with your feet later on. Okay? As I said, if your body is a little bit stiff, and that comes sometimes due to maturity, sometimes just a lack of movement, but don't give up. You know, if you wear a sock or a shoe, grab the sock on the shoe and pull your foot up as high as you possibly can, obviously while you're sitting safely and on a sturdy chair. And then once the foot is up, hold it there for as long as you can and massage. The technique is not important, but this can be very, very helpful. So I'm going to turn my hand in a way that it may be easy to follow. So you use the thumb and the index finger of your other hand, and you start high, close to the wrist area, and you massage your one hand from the wrist area, go in between the bones of your thumb and your index finger. So just use your thumb and index finger of the other hand and massage. So you're doing a push down kind of a movement, and then move your thumb and your index finger. So you massage close to the wrist area, and you move down towards in between your index finger and your middle finger, all the way to the web area. And then you lift your hand, go close to the wrist area, down your hand, in between your middle finger and your ring finger, to the web area.
Lift your hands so that they can see. That's it.
Okay. So I was trying. It's difficult to do it like this. Let me do it like this. Okay. So let me do it like this. So we start between the thumb and the index finger, then down between your index finger and your middle finger, then between your middle finger and the ring finger, and then between ring finger and your little finger. And we do that 3 times. Okay, so it's marvelous. You get into the habit of doing this. Obviously, you do it with your hands as well, because remember, we're working towards maintaining our independence for as long as possible. And it's not just independence, it's the joy of using our hands and our feet. And we massage your hand 3 times, from wrist to the web between thumb and index finger, from the wrist to the web between your index finger and your middle finger, web from the wrist. So you move down between your middle finger and your ring finger, and finally the area between your little finger and your ring finger. We've done that 3 times. Now use we're massaging the same hand. So use your other hand and just move down, just push. You know, apply pressure. Imagine your thumb and your index finger is a clothes peg, and then just catch your other finger and just massage it from where the thumb starts to the nail. And when you get to the nail, really apply pressure. And if it's possible for you to see that, you'll see the nail goes white, and then it turns pink again. Why? Because you've just created a vacuum. And the moment you let go, and it's not really painful, but the blood shoots all the way to the end. So it improves circulation. And when there's circulation, it's much easier for the nerves to stay alive. And we do that with the index finger, the middle finger, the ring finger, the little finger. And we do that 3 times. Thumb, so we massage the thumb, massage the index finger, massage the middle finger, massage the ring finger, massage the little finger. So we've done that 3 times. Extend your hand wide open for a count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then, as though you Mandela, and you say, Man, Amandla, and you create a nice tight fist tight fist, as tight as you possibly can. You hold it for a count of 8. And you open your hand and you hold it for a count of 8. Obviously, I'm not holding it for a count of 8 because there's so many other things we'd like to discuss. And then you create your fist again. So what have we done with this one hand? We've massaged the palm of the hand from the wrist in between each of the fingers. We've done that 3 times. We massaged each of the fingers. You don't massage the thumb 3 times and then the index finger 3 times. You massage all 5 fingers because the brain must remember what a hand looks like before it can use it properly. So you repeat the whole sequence 3 times again. So palm 3 times, thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger. And we do that sequence 3 times. And then we stretch the palm as wide open as possible. And we keep we make a fist and we keep that as tight as possible. And both the open and the fist is for a count of 8. And I'll send you a document with some information, or I can send you a voice clip as well to give you these instructions again, should you want that. Now, I want you to do this with both hands now. So just flick your fingers, create little stars with your hands, and just feel your hands and feel, open them wide, close them, and feel if they feel the same. And if you've done the massage with me, you may be surprised at how your hands feel now. I can't tell you how your hands feel, and I don't want to suggest how they should feel. But what I do know from experience, they don't feel the same anymore. One seems to feel lighter, sometimes warmer. The other one sometimes feels slow. It feels fuzzy. So obviously, while I'm talking, please continue this whole sequence with the other hand as well, because I don't want you to end this session with a very agile hand and a very slow hand on the other side. So please continue with the other hand. It's very simple. Palm, fingers, wide open, fist. It's just 4 steps. Then do each of those 3 times. So ideally, you do this with your feet. Now, it will be very difficult with your feet to go wide open and make a fist. So we're obviously not going to make a fist, but you can open your foot as much as possible, and you can bend your toes over and grasp with your feet as much as possible. If you really want to, you can put a piece of toilet paper or a tissue or a scarf on the floor. I wouldn't use a dish towel. And then you use your toes to pick it up. Oh, you can do that with a marble as well. It's marvelous. But use your toes to pick up stuff. Why? Because the more you use them, the more your brain's going to be aware of them, the greater the chances that you won't stumble and you won't fall. And that's nice. That's very nice. But before the non-stumbling and the non-falling, what you will gain is a sense of security, a sense of confidence, and a feeling of being in control. So there's a couple of things we've said so far that can be very helpful in creating a greater sense of groundedness through awareness of your feet. First one is shoes off. Bare feet, wherever you are, as often as you can, just walk bare feet. Not just inside, also outside. And I'll send you a link if you want to listen to that. There's a very interesting YouTube movie on earthing and how we should walk on grass every single day of our lives and how a lot of things will happen, of which one is a lowering of inflammation. I haven't tested any of this in terms of normal science, but it is a fascinating video. So we've talked about being barefoot. We've talked about being aware of your feet. We've said that this is still the same activity, that breathing the gravity up through your body till you feel absolutely earthed and here and now. Then we said, consider investing in a foot spa. So you can use the rollers and you can use the vibration to become more aware of your feet. We said if you use warm water in there, what you can also do is have a container with cold water, not ice water, but cold water next to it. So after a while, just put your feet in the cold water and then back in the nice smelling warm water again. And it creates tremendous feedback to the brain, so the brain knows where your feet are. Why does your brain need to know where your feet are? Otherwise, you can't navigate. Otherwise, your body, your brain doesn't have a current location, and it definitely can't operate within the map, which is your environment. And then there's the third thing was the massage. So it was bare feet, it was foot spa, it was the massage. So those are easy, lekker things to do. There's a fourth one. And this is part of the research that we're doing, where you take something like a tennis ball, a small ball, but it must be a firm ball because you want some resistance. Remember, we said per square centimeter, there are more nerve endings under your feet in the palms of your hands than the rest in any other square centimeter of your body. So we want to activate those nerve endings. So because the moment you apply pressure to a nerve, the brain says, I've got you. The circuit to the brain stays healthy. So you take a tennis ball, something like a tennis ball. Squash ball is a bit too small. So something that's nice and firm. And you just put it under your foot, the middle part of your foot. And you can just start rolling it gently forwards and backwards. Now you want, and it doesn't matter whether you start with your left or your right foot first. And then gradually what you want to do, you want to roll that ball from your heel all the way through to under your toes. You want to maintain, you want to control that ball, and you want to roll it all the way back, initially gently, and then a little bit firmer, and then quite a bit firm, but never painful. So it's a forwards, backwards movement. That's the direction in which we walk. But then also, and this is just a technical thing that's a little bit important. It's when you roll it under your feet, it's important that you roll it always in a mirror image. So if you roll it with your right foot, it would be to the right, so it will be clockwise. And if you roll it with your left foot, and you roll it in circles, it must be anti-clockwise, because that's how energy flows. It flows in through your feet, up through your body, and then out through your head as though it's a huge fountain. So it's always up and out, and that's the direction in which we roll the ball under our feet. I would love to challenge you that within 6 weeks to see what happens to your sense of security, your levels of anxiety, your feelings of self-control, your feelings of confidence, and the way that you operate and move in your environment. If you're up to the challenge, I'll send you the protocol if you want. So we said your feet are incredibly important, but it's not just your feet. It's your vestibular system in your neck and your ears as well. And if we've got time, Belinda, do we still have time?
Yes, absolutely. No, you can carry on. It's absolutely fine.
Okay, so you also want to stimulate your vestibular system, and the easiest way to stimulate your vestibular system is obviously to move, because the moment your head moves, your vestibular system is activated. So movement activates the vestibular system. That's why children are so hyperactive initially when they're little, because you need to move to stimulate the vestibular system. And when the vestibular system is active, if it's mature, it will control your movement. Then you don't need movement anymore to stimulate the vestibular system. And then you've got self-control and impulse control and a lot of other stuff. And what is fascinating is we want children to sit still at a time when they're supposed to be moving a lot. And unconsciously, we are actually promoting prolonged hyperactivity. Hyperactivity is necessary in early development to stimulate the vestibular system. So we want that vestibular system of yours to be mature. We want it to maintain its level of maturity because it contributes to your sense of orientation in space and your confidence and your independence, obviously. So how do we stimulate the vestibular system? Yes, move, okay? So lying down and getting up from bed, that's movement. You don't have to jump on a trampoline. It's marvelous. But you don't have to jump on a rebounder or a trampoline to stimulate your vestibular system. You just need to move. But to get moving is sometimes a little bit difficult, especially if for quite a while you've been terrified to move, or you've been in lockdown where there's been limited movement. Well, we can talk about the effect of lockdown on the vestibular system, the stability and confidence of the physical body, the stability of the emotions, and the stability of the mind. We're not going to, because I want to talk about groundedness and visual impairment. So, what can you do? You can put your fingers behind your earlobes. I call them the pinna. We call them the antennas of your brain because they grab all the sound vibrations and they funnel it in to your brain. Your fingers behind your ears and your thumbs in front of your ears. So we're going to massage the earlobe from the top all the way around to the bottom of your ear. We start at the top again and we massage up and outwards. So it's as though you want to flatten the folds in your ears. And it doesn't matter whether you have to rub 5 times or 20 times to cover the surface of your ears. It depends on age. You know, cartilage keeps on growing. So the older you are, the greater the earlobe, the bigger the earlobe. Have you noticed that? You will find it rather few older people have very small ears. It's one of nature's amazing mechanisms that says, okay, maybe the hairs in your ears are starting to break, which makes them a little bit less sensitive, but let's increase the surface of your earlobe to catch the sounds so you stay a functionally happy, more mature person. Okay, so we've wrapped the ears, massaged them, wrap them from top to bottom, not a specific technique. It's just flatten the earlobe, flatten the folds in your ear, and we massage from top to bottom, let go, start at the top and go down to the bottom as well. But the vestibular system is not in your ears only. That's the peripheral nervous system. That's the peripheral vestibular system. Your central vestibular system is in your neck. So we have to do a neck exercise. So what I want to encourage you to do is imagine the crown of your head. Now the crown of your head, it depends on the crown on your head, but most people's crown is right at the back of their head. Imagine there's a little piece of string sticking out of that crown of your head, and you can pull on it. You'll automatically feel your chin drops a little bit. Okay, so it's not nose up in the air, it's chin down a little bit. So it's not chin on chest, but the moment you keep the crown of your head straight up and you imagine you can pull your posture from there, you'll feel you sit more upright, but your chin will be dropping a little bit. So what you do now, and do it with eyes closed, because the moment your eyes are closed, you activate the vestibular system more. Because as long as your eyes are open while you move your head, you still use your eyes a lot to maintain your posture and to maintain your balance. So we want to activate the vestibular system very strongly now. And therefore we close our eyes so you can see darkness. Remember, you've just dropped that chin ever so slightly. You breathe in and you rotate your head to the left, as far to the left as you possibly can. And just hold it in that extended position. And obviously you were breathing out. And you breathe in and you exhale while you rotate your head all the way till you can look across your other shoulder. Now your eyes are closed. You're not looking anywhere. But just imagine, man. And then you breathe in, rotate your head all the way back till you turn and you imagine that you're looking across your one shoulder. And then breathe in. And obviously you're breathing out while you rotate your head. And don't attempt to turn your head. Turn the thing till you get as far back as you possibly can. Hold it in that position and repeat that 8 times. And what you would notice, which I didn't do now, was to ask you to look behind you over both shoulders and just look how far you can see, but you don't have to look. You can just feel the rotation or the mobility of your head. And then you feel what it feels like afterwards. And like with the hands, it's not necessarily a dramatic change, but there's an improvement. And as you continue to do this over the next couple of weeks, what you may find is that your head continues to turn a little bit further, and it naturally supports a more upright posture. Awareness of the feet and an upright posture is a sure recipe for confidence and confident walking. It is a sure recipe, a sure anti-stumble and anti-fall recipe. So another thing, so there are three things that we're going to do this afternoon to stimulate that vestibular system in your ears and in your neck. First one was to massage the ears from top to bottom, and we do that 3 times. Second one, look across your shoulder, breathe in, as far back as you can, breathe in, rotate while you exhale, and we repeat that 3 times. And then the last one is a little bit tricky. But it's because the vestibular system is hugely involved with a sense of direction and sequencing of action. So you see, it's those steps when you ask for directions, you know, turn right, so many meters, turn left, that kind of thing. So the vestibular system is hugely involved with a sense of direction and a sequencing of steps. So that's motor planning. That's what we do every moment when we go through our day. So what you do is remember that pull the string above the crown of your head position, which will enable you to drop your chin a little bit. And then you put your one hand, it doesn't matter whether that's left or right, into the side of your head. And what you're going to do, you're going to push your head with your hand, and you're going to push your hand with your head. So your hand and your head is going to have a bit of an arm wrestle. So you breathe in. I'm going to exaggerate. And then you're going to push your head in one direction, and you're going to push your arm in the opposite direction. So you are really fighting. Let that head and that arm fight for a count of 8 while you exhale. And then you drop. And on the other side, you do the same. Remember, it's all about balance. So if you've now worked with your right hand, you now go to the left. So the palm of your left hand against the side of your head. You breathe in, your head moves against the palm, and your palm moves against the head. You'll actually feel it in your shoulders and your back if you do it properly. And you do that for a count of 8 and 3 repetitions. But it's not 3 times on the one side, 3 times on the other side. No, it's about balance. Once on the one side, once on the other side. So we really stimulate the vestibular system, the central vestibular system in the brainstem area. And with that, we're activating the peripheral vestibular system as well. And then we also do the back and the front. So you reach behind your head, you clasp your fingers. So your skull will be, your head would be resting in the palms of both hands. And now the arms are going to push forward and the head is going to push backwards. Oh my head, it is tricky, but here we go. We're clever. We can do this. So you breathe in, head push back, arms push forward, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And don't hold and then exhale. Well, you're actually stressing your muscles. It's no good. Okay, so we do that one. Have to do its counterpart. So you clasp your fingers in the front, you clasp your forehead with the palms of your hands. Your hands are going to push back. Your forehead is going to push against your hands, and we're going to hold that fight. We're going to maintain that tension for a count of 8. So it's breathe in, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Remember, you exhale while we are counting, so there's no breath left at the end of the count of 8. And you do 1 at the back, 1 in the front. That's 1 set. 1 at the back, 1 in the front. That's the second set, and we do everything 3 times. Why do we do everything 3 times? Very simple. Because the brain recognizes repetition. But if you do something once, the brain says that maybe that was fluke. If you do it twice, maybe it's important, but I don't think so. When you do something 3 times and more, the brain says this is repetition. This is important. I need to pay attention. So 3 or more repetitions, but 3 repetitions we found the Mindfulness Institute is enough for the brain to pay attention. And the value is not in doing 30 on a Monday and nothing for the rest of the week. It's better to do every day. It's better to do a little bit every single day. So it's consistent over time. The brain loves to learn if there's consistency over time. So we were talking about feeling grounded. And we said once the body is grounded, the emotions become more grounded and more stable and happier. And the moment the body and the heart is happy, it's so much easier for the mind or the brain to think clearly. Professor Andrew, but now I forgot his surname for the moment. He said another thing. He said some people are still arguing what's the difference between the brain and the mind. He says that's an 80s argument. So when we say brain, we also mean mind. So if you want to quieten your mind, it's a wonderful way if you ground your physical body. You know what is very interesting? That's partially why we started this research, and we're doing this research with older people. Because part of the stimulation and the stimulation of the soles of the feet, to become more aware of your feet, many people have reported that they sleep much better. You see, if you've got a problem with groundedness, the moment it becomes dark, your anxiety levels go up because you can't see where everything is and you can't maintain your posture. The moment you lose your sight, it's one of the things that creates tremendous anxiety because you can't see to maintain your position and to navigate. You don't need to see. You need a healthy vestibular system. And then you will see inside, even if it's not outside. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you very much.
Sure, Melodie, that was wonderful again. I was just thinking I'm going to look like a wild woman with all my exercises I've been doing. Right, so there was one question so far, and that was, what do you feel about reflexology of the feet? Can the hand and finger massage help bad essential tremor of the hands?
Can the hand massage help?
For essential tremor in the hands.
I have never done any research on that. I would encourage the person who asked the question to do the hand massage and then let us know. My experience has been through many years that we shouldn't put a platform on what's possible. It's a very simple thing. You can't lose anything by doing it. So please tell us if that has helped. Potentially, it can.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Melodie, that was absolutely divine. And it's always so important how these very simple things just make so much sense, and how important the groundedness is, especially for the elderly. And also, you know, I suppose that also fits in with the thing that where children have ADHD, if you give them something to press their feet against, that also anchors them. It's the same thing.
In the weighted things that they sometimes use as well, it helps them to ground. It helps them to establish that essential relationship with gravity. And Belinda, you have asked that we talk at some stage about our approach to teaching children the letters of the alphabet, and how we use groundedness as a point of departure for that. And if you're really keen, I will definitely talk about that at some stage. It's fascinating. It's so much fun. You see, I believe human functioning shouldn't be that complex. You know, there's so many simple things, but because we've got this thing called the brain, we sometimes overuse it. And if it's not complicated and extremely expensive, well, it can't be any good. Nope.
Well, nope. I think also, you know, that whole thing about where you teach the children the alphabet using the lazy 8. in terms of with your body feeling what is the direction of that A and the B and whatever.
So all we've done now, Belinda, is we added the feet to that,
Yes.
which has escalated the speed at which they conquer the symbols tremendously.
Okay. Somebody asks, sorry for the delay, have you found that any of these help for tinnitus? So the ringing in the ears.
Okay, so there are many schools of thought, that too. There are many schools of thought. And one of the way we view tinnitus is it's about the tension in the little muscles. So if you reduce tension in one part of the body, it tends to spread to the other areas. It is possible. We have never done research on it. So I can't quote and say with all confidence, yes, it will, but I would encourage you to experiment and report back.
Okay, you got that, Louise? And then an anonymous attendee, could you please share the links and sites? So I saw it was Andrew Huberman, Huberman.
Thank you.
And yes, as soon as Melodie sends the links, I will send them out to the group. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Righto.
Perhaps I should just quickly mention, because a lot of people keep asking for the talks, and I'm sure with all the things Melodie mentioned today, some of us might think, I think I might have forgotten one of the exercises and want to have another listen to the YouTube or the webinar. Just a reminder that all the webinars are recorded and they are saved onto our webpage, www.lowvision.co.za, and you go to the webinar menu and you will find all our webinars, hopefully including this one. Just give us a little bit of time to get it downloaded, but they are all there.
Thank you so much. Melodie, that was stunning. And so I'll phone you later to make the date for the next one. Thank you very
much for the opportunity.
It was wonderful, as always.
Wonderful to meet you. Thank you.
And a lot of that made sense. You know, there's some things that
I'm so glad.
Yes, yes. Very, very interesting. Righto, guys. So next week, Karen Denton will be talking, and the link will go out sometime over the weekend. So we look forward to seeing you. I'm not sure why some people have been complaining they're not getting the links. We are doing talks every Wednesday. So if you don't hear anything, please contact me and let's find out where the break is in communication. Thank you very much.
Belinda,
yes.
Belinda, I just quickly checked the questions. I didn't respond to the reflexology question.
Yes, okay.
Of course, it would be superb.
Yes, okay. So let me just see. Okay, hold on. So no question. I just want to thank you for this informative session as an OT, especially with the vestibular system. It got me thinking in terms of providing intervention for autistic kiddies, hypo and hyperactivity. Sally, yes, as Melodie just said, it would be excellent for you to do the massage on both your hands and your feet, because it's very important to have that constant thing. And they also, I'll share a link. There's some very good hand exercises that an OT has been sharing on telehealth with crinkling paper. So you hold the paper like that and try and stretch it as much as you can. And then you crunch it up in one hand, and then you open it out again and you stretch it as much as you can and do the other hand. And then you do different exercises with your fingers. Just that's really important to keep your fingers really mobile. And as we get older, that's really, really important to do that. And particularly with today using technology for everything, people don't use their hands as much as they used to.
Or their feet.
Or their feet.
We don't walk enough.
Yes.
So whatever we do with our hands, like the activity that you just suggested, you can do something similar, not with paper because it would be a little bit difficult with your feet, but with loo paper or tissue or scarf. So,
Yeah.
you know, pull, let the two legs use your toes to have a little fight. It's marvelous. It's marvelous.
Yeah. Very good. And then Melodie, you also have that thing that you used to do with the
Finger fight.
buttons,
Yeah.
the finger castanets.
Yes.
Yeah. Which
No,
you
there's
did
loads
with
of stuff.
elastic and buttons. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Go well and stay safe.